In this tutorial, I'll show you what arrays are and how to use them in PHP. Optionally, you can download the code from my GitHub repository. Just grab the zip file, extract it into your web root directory, and navigate to the Adventure Game folder. If we think of a variable as a box containing a single item, then an array can be likened to a cabinet with multiple drawers, each holding an item. The best part is that you can reorder the drawers as well as add or remove them as needed. Let's look at a simple example. First, we create an array called inventory. It contains two items, a map and a flashlight. Arrays are great because they let us group related items together into a single variable, making it easier to manage them. Now let's display the items in our inventory. First, we print a heading that says inventory. Then we use a HTML list to list each item. We use a special PHP loop called Foreach, which is perfect for arrays. This loop goes through each item in our inventory array and assigns that item to the item variable. For each item, we display it in a list item, so when we run the code, it will print out the items in the array as a list on the screen. Here, we add a new item, rope, to our inventory. In PHP, you can add an item to an array by using the square brackets after the array name. Think of it as throwing another item in your backpack. Now we're displaying the updated inventory to see the changes. This code is similar to what we used before, but now our inventory includes rope as well. So when this runs, you'll see map, flashlight, and rope in the list. Here we're displaying a specific item referring to its position or index in the array. Arrays start counting from 0, so inventory in square bracket 0 points to the first item, which is map. Think of it like a numbered list, where the first item always has the number 0. This is an important concept in programming, and you'll see it come up often. Next, let's remove an item from our inventory. We use the unset to take out the first item by using the 0 index, which is map. It's like taking something out of your backpack and leaving a gap where that item used to be. Now we display our inventory again, and after removing the map, only flashlight and rope remain. Since we removed the item at index 0, our first item in the list is now at index 1. This is how we display the new first item, which is now flashlight. This shows how array indexes don't automatically shift when you remove an item. They stay in place, which leaves a gap in the numbering. We can illustrate the current state of our array by using var_dump, which is a way to display the contents of the array, including the indexes. Here I've highlighted one of the items in the array. This tells us that this is an array with two items. For each item, it will show the index, the type, in this case a string, and how many characters it is, and then the actual value. As you can see, var_dump is super useful for debugging, and it can be used on all variable types in PHP. Right now, we'll see the flashlight at index 1 and the rope at index 2, and no index 0. Here we use a function called array_values. This will reindex our array, filling in the gap left by the removed item. It's like tightening everything up so that the list starts from 0 again, and without any missing numbers. Once we reindex, we use the var_dump again to see the updated array. Now flashlight is at index 0 and rope is at index 1. This makes our array easier to work with and is neatly organised without gaps. Finally, we confirm that our first item, flashlight, is back at index 0. Let's take a quick look at sorting. We've created a new array called backpack. Right now the items are in the order that they were added, but what happens if you want to organise them alphabetically? And that's where the sort function comes in. You'll notice this time, instead of using var_dump, we're using print_r. This provides a simple snapshot of an array or variable. Once again, it tells us that it's an array and that each item will show its index number and its value. This is useful if you want to check your variable's contents without the extra detail. The sort function rearranges the items in ascending order, alphabetical for strings or smallest to largest for numbers. And after sorting, the array looks like this. Sorting isn't just about tidying up your backpack. It brings structure and logic to your data. For example, sorting a list of books by title so users can find what they want, arranging product prices from cheapest to most expensive, or preparing data for analysis or ranking players in a game. We'll be covering sort in more detail, but as you can see, it's a versatile function. Okay, we're now going to explore one of the most powerful tools in PHP, and that's associative arrays. These are great for organising and accessing data in a meaningful way. We'll start simple and build up to slightly more advanced examples. Okay, so what is an associative array? Well, if we take our previous cabinet with drawers analogy, these drawers would have labels. Each label represents a key, and the items inside are the values. Associative arrays work just like that. You use keys like map or flashlight to store and access values, making your data easier to manage. Let's start with an example of player's inventory. Here, inventory is an associated array. The keys are the item names, map and flashlight, and the values represent their quantities. So the player has one map and one flashlight. Now let's check if the player has a map in their inventory. We'll use the isNotEmpty function, which asks, does this key exist in the array and does it have a positive value? If the map key exists and is greater than 0, we print the quantity. If it doesn't, we say the player doesn't have a map. It's like asking, is there a drawer labelled map in the cabinet and is there anything in it? Let's have a look at adding and adjusting items. Let's say the player finds some rope. Here's how we'll add it to the inventory. This creates a new key, rope, with a value of 1. If we want to add more ropes, for instance adding 5, then we use the plus equals operator, updating the quantity to 6. We can also remove ropes by using the minus equals operator. In this case, we take it back down to 3. You can adjust quantities like this at any time. Let's have a look at removing items. What if the player uses their map and it's gone? We can remove it using the unset function we previously looked at in the last chapter, like this. This completely removes the map key and its value from the array. If you try to reference it after this, it will no longer exist, shown here as we print the array. Now that we've explored single layer associated arrays, let's step it up a notch and talk about nested arrays. Think of nested arrays as containers within containers. In our game world, this is how we store the data about locations. Our world array contains a numbered key to represent a location in our game, and each location has its own details like a description, possible directions, actions, and even a background image. To use this data, we navigate through the layers of the array. Let's say we want to display the description of each location. Here's how we would do it. This tells PHP to start with a world array, go to the first key, either 1 or 2, and within that, grab the description. The result is the text for each location being displayed on the screen. In this step, we're going to focus on one specific location and its details. We'll initially assign 2 to the selected world variable. Doing this allows us to dynamically change the displayed location by updating this variable. Let's start by accessing the nested array as before, but this time instead of manually using the number, we'll use the variable selected world we created to access the information we want. We've done this by echoing out the selected world we're using, in this case 2, and its description. We've also used the image path that is stored under the image key. I've prepended the path with .. as our images directory is up one level in our main project directory. In this next section, we're once again using the isNotEmpty function, which is needed for when keys might be empty or undefined. This will ensure PHP doesn't throw warnings if the directions key is missing or it has no data. So here we're looking in our world array and our selected world in this case is 2, and we're checking if the directions are present. If directions isn't empty, we loop through the array using Foreach to list the available paths. In the same way, we also check actions with the isNotEmpty function and then use the Foreach loop to display the available player actions. Now if we go back to our selected world variable and change the value to 1, we no longer have any actions. And this is why it's a good habit to use the isNotEmpty function when working with arrays that might have optional data. As you can see, nested arrays are powerful tools for organising complex data, and as you can see, they fit perfectly into game design. If you're finding this useful, please give it a like and subscribe, as I have some great tutorials coming soon. Okay, we've covered quite a lot on arrays, and I'm sure you're beginning to see how useful they could be. One last subject on arrays we briefly touched on is sorting. Let's continue with our inventory example for our player. Currently, they're in no particular order, just stored as an associative array, where each key is the item name and the value is a quantity or string. Here's what it looks like in raw form, so this will be our reference. Let's try our first sorting method, which is sort. This one sorts the array by its values in ascending order, which is 1 to 9, then A to Z. One thing you'll notice about this method is that the keys disappear. This isn't ideal if you want to keep the original structure. And a way around this, if you just want to order the list, is to copy the array into a new variable, shown here in sorted array, and then sort the new array and work with that. This way the original array stays intact. This brings us nicely onto A sort. In the same way, this one sorts the array by its values in ascending order, but this time it keeps the keys intact. After running A sort, the inventory will be sorted by value, smallest to largest, and the keys will remain attached to their values. Next up is AR sort, which is like A sort, but in reverse. This one sorts by value in descending order, so this will present Z to A and then 9 to 1, as demonstrated here, where we see the pig value is on top. And now the largest values come first and the keys stay in place. Finally, let's sort by the keys instead of the values. For this, we use K-sort. This arranges the inventory by the names like rope, map, and pet, and so on, while keeping their values intact. Uses for this could include creating a dictionary of terms or table of contents, where the keyword is the key and the value is the definition or page number. It could also be used in a report to order by username or categories to make it more readable. So to quickly summarize the methods we covered: sort sorts by values in ascending order, removing the keys. Asort sorts by values in ascending order, keeping the keys intact. Arsort sorts the values by descending order, also keeping the keys intact. And ksort sorts the keys in ascending order, leaving the values attached to their key. If you're following along, try uncommenting each sort method one at a time and running the script. This way you can see exactly how each method works in your array. That's it for this tutorial, but if you wish to continue learning PHP, then take a look at my PHP Quest course right here on this channel, where I start with variables and build up to creating a complete adventure game. Thanks for watching!